Hello everybody, this is Dino GTO and this is my general garage overview of the M4 Improved. The M4 Improved is the collector's gem of the week for this week, and I think it's on sale for today only. So I'm going to give it a quick garage run through before it goes away. It has decent armor. It's better than the M4. That's not saying much because the M4's armor is kind of mediocre. Anyway, like it's 50, 38, 38. Yeah, it's crap. This thing here gets thicker side armor by far and thicker rear armor, but then again, rear armor never bounces anything other than the Japanese tier 6 and up heavies, which have the same, which have like 150 front armor, which is insane. But every other tank is crap, basically, in terms of their rear armor, so it doesn't really matter. In most cases, the rear armor is kind of an irrelevant stat. It just basically stops you from getting pinned by HE. It's about all it does. It's got a decent turret, it's got 10 degrees gun depression, it's got a quick aiming time, crap accuracy. Its dispersion is absolutely terrible. It, like all tier 5s, it doesn't use a vertical stabilizer, which means that it really struggles to aim quickly after you move in any sort of way. Like Americans from tier 6 and up all get vertical stabilizers, that's like their thing. So they all get them at tier 6. The UK, I believe, gets them at tier 7. And the Germans and everybody else gets them like tier 8. I don't think the IS, as an example, gets it at tier 7. But this thing is difficult to recommend. And I'll show you why here. Because, unfortunately for this thing is in the game. I love this thing. It's so quick. It's the best way to describe this thing is the Cromwell of tier 5. It's got the mobility and it's got better armor than the tier 6 version of this thing in the Czechoslovakian tree. And it's got roughly the same mobility, although I think it's got worse track traverse, but you can negate that a wee bit with clutch braking, which I unfortunately do not have on my driver, which I just realized now. I thought I did, but apparently not. It's a bit of an oversight on my part, but whatever. Aiming time is probably the biggest weakness of this thing's gun. But this thing has a gun with penetration that rivals the best tier 5 tank, like tier 5 guns, like in general. Like, I think the KV-1 gets like 120 pin. This thing here gets 116. So this thing is very competitive gun-wise. It's got a really nice gun, and it's got almost KV-1 hit points. 610 is massive for tier 5 on a medium. Now, this thing here, the subject of this video, if you want to get an idea of how this thing plays, try the Panzer IV-H to get a feeling of how mobile it is and how the armor works. Because I would say this thing's probably the closest you're going to get at tier 5 to something with roughly the same armor and roughly the same power weight ratio, but this thing doesn't have as good top speed. This thing has 40. This thing can do 40, whereas this thing here can do 56, which is pretty good. But it doesn't make up for the gun. The gun is just terrible. Like, this thing is basically the M3 Lee gun mounted at your hair in a full turret. Oh yeah, and one of the most important facts about this thing, unlike things like the Metal 4 or the KV-222, it does not get premium matchmaking. So that 90 pen you have, you're going up against tier 7s with that. And using premium ammo kind of defeats the purpose of a premium. Like, the premium are supposed to make money, although tier 5 it's kind of meh how much money you make, but still, they're supposed to make some money at least. Using premium ammo completely ruins that point. Why would you use premium ammo on a premium tank? It doesn't really make much sense to me. But This thing has some. This thing is. I couldn't recommend it if I wanted to. I would say this thing is for collectors only. That's why it's collector's gem of the week. But collectors only. This thing for the average player, there are better options such as this thing and this thing here. This thing here is great for training Russian heavy crews, and it's arguably better than the Churchill 1 at tier 5 in the UK tree, because it gets this gun here and it gets premium matchmaking. So this 110 pen rapid fire gun is actually usable, unlike it is on the Churchill 1, which is cursed with meeting tier 7s, because if you meet tier 7s at tier 5, you're going to struggle already, and because you can't use your blistering rate of fire gun, and you're stuck with a 75mm, like basically every other non-Russian machine in the game, basically. Oh well, other than the Crusader, but that's just this thing's thing is just its ability to just fire and just keep something, just obliterate targets with its just insane rate of fire. Its aiming time is actually worse than its reload time, which is an interesting problem to have. Oh, and something else this thing has is a better engine than its equivalent. So it's got a better part rate ratio, and because top speed's higher at 28 instead of I think 20, it is actually able to abuse that extra engine power and get places faster. Traverse speed's still crap, but it feels a lot more comfortable to play, and this thing is honestly why what I hoped the tier 5 UK one would be like, but it's nothing like this thing. This thing's just better, in my opinion, because it meets max tier 6s, although saying that, tier 6s become a bit more trickier these days because of things like the OI, even though those things have become a little less popular lately. They're still there, and meeting one of those things in any tier 5 is devastating. You're basically like, if it hits you once, you're going to die, basically. That's just how it goes. But yeah, that's just the problem with all tier 5s these days. This thing here actually is pretty comparable to the M4 improved in terms of its role in games. This thing here gets a 90 pen gun, so when it's top tier, it can abuse lower tier machines. It'll just obliterate them. As long as you're at rough, medium to close range, it will. At long range, it's very, very sketchy whether or not you're going to hit anything at all. Although you do have a good view range to spot, you don't really want to be spotting too often in a medium tank. Typically, you want to be in there doing damage. So it's kind of weird that this thing has such a good view range. It has 370 meters, which is kind of weird. But yeah, I guess the M4 improved does. Or no, the M4 Sherman also has about 370 meter view range. But it's just kind of weird that they chose to give this thing that amount of view range too. In my opinion, considering it's so much faster and you're supposed to be getting in close. But then again, I guess they had to give it something, considering its gun so bad. The Matilda 4 serves roughly the same role as the M4 improved when it's top tier. It basically goes in and just wrecks lower tier machines and some equal tier machines. But anything higher tier than it and anything that fires faster than it will wreck it. But luckily enough for this thing reloads in 3 seconds. So yeah, this thing fires faster, and I think aims faster and has better gun direction than the M4 improved, so that helps as well. So I wouldn't recommend this thing anyway, just because of how much it suffers when it's bottom tier, and it's so slow that you can't actually flank anything. This thing is more of just for pummeling the lower tier machines. So if you want to do that, then this is a pretty good option. But if you want just something to play with standard, if you're playing with someone and you want to play with standard matchmaking machines, then this thing's the way to go. All of these other ones here have premium matchmaking, except the M4 improved, which is probably the biggest failing of this machine. If they ever give premium matchmaking, this thing will be good. Without it, it's crap. I'm just gonna say that right now. And also, the side armor I mentioned earlier on, it's only under the tracks, the most useless place for it to be. Like, the only way that's useful is if somebody's trying to track you, and typically at this kind of tier, people just aim for the damage. People don't go for tracks and stuff like that. So it's the most useless place it could be. I think this bit here is like 42 armor or something like that. So yeah, 42 or 50, something like that. But yeah, its armor's not as good as it's supposed to be. Honestly, I would just say this thing is not something you can get. You can get the Churchill 3 and the Panzer T25, the ones I would recommend, for roughly the price of this when they're on sale. Like there was recently an event where these two were on sale for 50% off, and you can get both of those for the price of one of these. If you're a collector, you get this thing, but because nobody's going to be able to talk you out of it, like if you're a collector, that's what you do. But for just the average player, one of these two here. This thing here, more fun in my opinion, but this thing here has moments too. So that's just my general overview of these two machines, or of these few tier 5 machines, and like just trying to give you an idea of what the M4 Improved is like, and just basically trying to say don't buy this thing, it's not good enough. It's like playing M4 Sherman with the upgraded turret but the stock gun, and if you've gone through that, you know how painful that is. I remember doing it, and it was just like, oh my god, this is so bad. And that was about a couple of years ago now, so going against some of the heavier armor that's around these days, yeah, that's not something that you really want to deal with if you can avoid it. So yeah, but at least this thing here you can upgrade and get a better gun on it, like the 105 or the 86. I personally use the 76 because I don't know, I just kind of like the 76. I use the 105 and the .4 because I don't know, it's kind of weird because most people use the 105 on the, or use the 75 on this thing, the 105 on this thing, but I'm the opposite. I don't know, but yeah, off topic there. So those are just my opinions on this thing. Don't bat. It's crap. So I'll try and get gameplay out of this thing if I can. I have no promises on that because it's bad. It is just bad. But hey, leave your thoughts on this thing in the comments. Let me know if you think if your opinions are the same as mine on this thing. And I'll see you in the next one.